Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the show where we shatter the silence on men's mental health. We are unfiltered, unedited, and as always, we are going raw. My name is Joey.
And I'm Eric, and we're your hosts, and welcome to Raw Minds, episode 27 Bargaining.
Stages of Grief.
Yep,
It is our mini series. We are breaking down each stage. Everyone obviously, grieves differently, right?
definitely.
Sometimes you can hit all five stages in the same day. It's everyone goes at their own pace. Everybody grieves how they grieve, man. Everyone's built differently. Some people are more emotional than others. Some people, you know, can bury things and move on with their life, and some people can't handle it, can't take it, and you know, get to that point of unaliving themselves,
Yeah,
depending on what it is that we go through.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's true,
some
man.
people everyone just grieves and struggles differently
Yeah,
with you know life's trials and traumas. So
I mean, you could be at a
it's def
funeral and see someone, and they're not even like crying, right? But just because they're not crying doesn't mean that they're grieving. I mean, not
or
grieving.
they're not hurting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Everybody's differently, man. Definitely. We touched.
It's
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
no. Go ahead, man.
I was just saying we touched on denial, and then um, the other one was oh god,
Anger.
anger. Yeah, anger, and now bargaining. And a lot of people really don't understand bargaining, but today we're going to explain it and maybe give people more of an insight and understanding, and know that these are normal things that we go through in times like
Well,
that.
I think in that bargaining stage, we all pretty much do the same thing. Is as you in that stage they call it bargaining, but it's you lose a sense of control of the situation, and you're trying to get that control back,
Yeah,
right? That's basically what it is, right? You're trying to negotiate. Basically, the breakdown and the definition is you're trying to negotiate with a higher power or yourself in an attempt to delay or reverse the outcome.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So if we tell ourselves we'll change if we could just go back and not say that or do this, and maybe things would be different. So we bargain and negotiate with ourselves
hmm,
is what it is, right?
yeah,
Hoping that you'd have a different outcome of what has happened because you're feeling that pain or loss, whether it's a death or a breakup or whatever it might be, right?
yeah,
So we negotiate and bargain with ourselves.
yeah,
And I've even been there where I was so messed up and at such a low, and I'm not a religious guy, and a lot of people I think do this, and fuck, you look up sometimes and you're laying in your room and you're broken and believing in God or not, you somehow reach out to God one of those times and you're just like, man, if there is a God out there, please help me,
oh,
or
where
what
did you
whatever.
you cut out there?
You know what I mean?
You cut out there the last thing that you said there.
Yeah, I don't know, I just seen something pop up, but
Yeah,
yeah, no, I said, when we're in that place of pain and brokenness, is not only do we try to negotiate and tell ourselves these stories and, oh, I promise I'll change to yourself, but you know, religious or not, and I'm not religious, but I've had moments where I'm like, man, if there is a God up there, like I promise you, if I could go back and take this away, or I'd say this, then and you try to negotiate with the higher power at
Mhm.
this. It's because you're hurting. You
Yeah.
don't you don't want to feel the pain, and you hope that whether it's a god or the universe could reverse that so you can take that pain away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and that's exactly what they say and talk about the bargaining is it's with yourself
Yeah.
or a higher power, whatever it is that you believe in,
Yeah.
hoping to reverse what has happened because you don't want to feel like that.
Yeah. Or in some
Right, so
instincts, I mean, people even be like, they don't believe that it's real. And it's also, that's why it's close to denial too, right? Because it can be in front of anger, or like we said, it doesn't have to be coming in the road, but it's always denial first. Um,
yeah, exactly. Like that stage is it goes hand in hand with the denial in the first stage that they talk about, right?
yeah, yeah, and
Because you don't want to believe, if I could change this, then this wouldn't happen, and there's
yeah,
no way that this happened. Or if someone is laying on their deathbed and that's someone that you love or care about, that you're telling yourself, "I wish I could be in their place and take that away."
hmm,
For example, we talked about it briefly on the last episode. My nephew that passed away was 3 years old. As family and uncle, and I wish I could trade places with him. If I could donate my heart, I would have, or whatever it is that he needed, because we do that because we're trying to not feel that pain and wish that we could change that,
yeah, yeah,
right? So you try to negotiate with yourself. I'm like, and then you sit in this daily because you're hurting, and it just consumes you, right? Because you're trying, or wish you could go back, or wish you could change that for that person, or wish you didn't say what you said to cause that breakup, or make a poor decision, and whatever it may be that ended it. And you just keep telling yourselves over and over in your head all these things, and it can be very detrimental, and it is, because it not only prolongs the healing process of whatever it is that you're dealing with, is because you every day that you wake up, you're repeating these stories,
hmm,
and because you're hurting, you don't want to feel like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it definitely is a real hard one to get through, and what they call the bargaining stage. But again, everyone heals and grieves differently, right?
Well, another version of bargaining too is, I wish, like, what if I could have did something to stop that? Like, oh, if I was there, and you keep on repeating these stuff over and over in your head, and that's it'll drive you crazy at the same time. Like, what if that question, what if, especially when you lose someone, you know, I could have been there. What if I was there? At the end of the day, you weren't though, right? Like it happened, and there's nothing you can do to change that.
And then you could carry that guilt, right? Because you're playing, you blame yourself. What if your friend that committed suicide but called you the day before,
Hmm.
and you didn't answer that phone call, and then the next day they're gone. Now
Yeah,
you're holding, like, maybe if I answered that phone call, he would still be with us,
yeah, yeah,
right? So we hold on to a lot of that too when these things happen, and you wish, but that you could change all these things, or take that pain away from them, or not feel that and do this. But and that I think that's one of the toughest, if you were to look at the stages, is that, because you're
oh yeah,
constantly battling yourself, wishing you did something different, and at the same time it's causing you more anxiety, and it's causing you more sadness and hurt, because you're creating even scenarios that hasn't happened, hoping that, or wishing that that's what would have happened, so you wouldn't be in this position, or you wouldn't feel this way.
yeah. It's just about navigating through that pain and trying to push it away onto something else.
Right, and you're trying to t- regain control
Hmm.
when you have no control,
Hmm.
because if you had control, you wouldn't be feeling the way that you feel, and you wouldn't be heartbroken, or you wouldn't have lost a family member or close friend, right? So that's why we feel this pain, because you lost control.
Yeah.
You have no control over what has happened. If someone leaves you in a breakup, you have no control over that. You might be able to try to fix it, but in that moment when you're heartbroken and you're hurting, like, you have no control.
Yeah. It's
And
true.
that's why you feel that way, because you can't change it.
Yeah.
And you're hurting so bad, and you're so broken that you when you lose that sense of control, so you continuously feel that way because there's nothing you can do about it, and now you feel helpless.
Yeah.
And that's where the bargaining and the telling these stories in your head comes from, is because you're trying to regain control of something that you have no control over.
Mm-hmm. And that
And
that
that's where
yeah.
that's where it comes from. Oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have said that, then I wouldn't be in this position, and they'd still be with me, and they wouldn't have passed away, and if I just answered that phone, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a struggle because you don't have control. You've lost control.
Well, like I said this before, is as human beings, we want certainty, right? We want to know the know of the unknown. And we're always trying to chase everything, like go to space, do this, do that. You know what I mean? So it's, when you don't have control of a situation, you don't know the outcome that's going to come. So it comes hand in hand, right?
1,000,000%. And that's like with a lot of things in life, man. When everybody wants to be in control
Mm-hmm.
of whatever it is, you want to have a sense of control.
Yeah.
But that pain, like I said, and that depression or whatever it is that we deal with or go through from whatever traumatic events or whatever, is because you've lost control,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing, because you want to fix that. You wish you didn't do that. You wish, you know, if you just picked up that phone or whatever it is. So that's why we sit and feel that way, and because we don't have control, and we lose that. But in that is where people start to spiral even farther out of control,
Yeah.
right? So when you lose that sense of control over your way you feel, the what you're doing, and then that's where it comes in, the masking and the self-medicating and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you start to spiral out of control, because now you've really lost complete control of your life,
Yeah. Then you
right?
medicate, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. And that's what follows, though. That's why depression follows bargaining, because of this, right? People lose control, and they just can't handle the depression that they're going through, and pretty much,
Well, and that's it.
yeah,
Well, like you said, the depression, and that's why if you look at the stage chart or whatever, is
yeah,
depression's what after that.
yeah,
But again, everyone grieves differently. But
yeah,
that depression comes is when you realize you have no control.
yeah,
Because in the beginning of that stage, you're trying to find that control and get it back,
yeah,
and you keep telling yourself these stories. And then once you realize, no matter what I think, no matter what I thought I could do, there's you realize that it's done. They're gone. It's over. It's whatever, and that's where your depression starts to kick in,
mm-hmm,
right?
yeah,
Because you're trying to grab onto control, and not and and hold on to this, and it not be real, because you're still, it's really close to the denial stage, right?
yeah,
Because you're not believing it. You don't want to believe it. You're trying to hold on to it, and then once you realize that it's gone.
yeah,
They're gone. The situation, it happened, and now you really start to nosedive really into
yeah.
that depression and that deep, and that's where everything else starts to fall off for a lot of people,
Left in your
and
feelings.
that's where you
Yeah,
that's why we're doing what we're doing, is because we try to help people not even get into that. Like we're, you know, being sad is normal. You know, going through things in life is normal. You know, getting kicked and knocked down is normal. But you really gotta, whatever it is that you guys go through, is that before it really gets into that depression stage, is to try to find the tools and try to find the resources and to try to get out of that faster and not go into that dark hole that's really hard to get out of,
Mhm. Yep.
right? And
Yeah.
that's where the self medicating and everything else comes with it, and that's why people end up way worse or unaliving themselves.
You just lose yourself.
You lose yourself, and
Yeah.
I completely sympathize, just like you can, because
Yeah.
we both been there. I
Oh yeah.
we both try to we both try to kill ourselves at one point because of being in that headspace.
Got that right, man. I woke up 2 days later in the hospital, not even knowing. Right. So definitely. And like how we
Yeah,
were
man.
touch on, like we said, like denial and bargaining are like pretty close. Almost, I would say almost the same feeling in some sense, but it's like a gray line down it, I would say. Because I mean, at one point, you can't believe it happened, but at the other side, you'd do anything to change that. So it's really close. And what I went through, I kind of touched this on the last episode, is like, I always thought still she's gonna come through that door, and it still goes through my mind. But when it first happened, it didn't feel real. It felt like she was on a vacation, or like her phone was gonna ring, and like I would look at it and just like, oh, is it gonna ring? You know what I mean? Like you go into your head and you go deep and you start following that rabbit hole. I mean, like with her mom, what she was going through, same thing. She was trying to figure out every possible way to bring her back. But there's no way. Once someone's gone, they're gone. Well, at this point in time, anyways. Who knows later down the line in life? But I mean, they're gone. And like you said, like you need to realize, like once you realize that, you can start moving forward. But you have to accept it, right? And that's the biggest thing, is acceptance. And that's obviously the last one that we're going to talk about. But as soon as you can
What
cross that, then you can understand.
after your fiance passed away and kind of the dust settled with all the issues you had with her family,
Yeah.
once when you were able to kind of you know take in what's actually happened, past that denial stage, and what was, like, what kind of stories were you telling yourself? What were you reaching out to a higher power? Were you, like, what were you telling yourself in kind of that process after losing your fiance?
Um. Well, I wasn't really reaching out to a higher power. Um. I'm not really religious. But I was definitely replaying in my head, like when I talked to her on the phone, or like actually on Father's Day in the morning when she came to drop off my Father's Day presents, and I told her she should go upstairs and sleep because she looked really tired. I wish that I kept her at my house. That over like that kept on going through my head. Like I'm stupid. I kept on saying, like, I should have just told her go upstairs and sleep. No, but obviously she didn't, and she went to her mom's house. So like that definitely. Or I should have just, like, when I came home after dropping off my daughter and her best friend, um, that's when Jules said she was going to come over, back from her mom's house. And I was calling her and she wasn't picking up. So I drove by the house and I saw her car at her mom's house and I just figured she was sleeping. But it replayed in my head. It was like I should have just went to her mom's house and woke her up. And those
Did
were.
you
Go ahead.
did you ever feel like a sense of guilt, like it was your fault because you didn't keep her in the house when you seen her that day?
No, not at all. Not at all. not at all. But I could see some people that would think that, definitely.
So
You
you
know,
didn't feel like a sense of blame?
not really, man. Not really. I wish I kept her there, but I didn't blame myself. Um, I think that though a lot of people, like her mom did. Her mom definitely blamed herself. She straight up told me she says she should have woke her up. She doesn't know what she was doing. Like she figures like if she woke her up, she would have been okay, or if she called the ambulance. She even called the hospital to talk to them and explain what happened, and if she called, would she have saved her life? She went to the extent of doing that. Do I blame myself or had any guilt? No, no.
Not necessarily blame yourself, but like in your mind, like like that sense of like it's my fault because I seen her the day before that she passed, and I could have done this, and because it was such a
Yeah,
tragic what happened,
yeah,
being that it was your fiance and whatnot. Um, but the stories that you tell you, because like you said, when you're hurting, you wish you could
yeah,
go back. You wish you did keep her there, or
yeah,
you wish that you went by her mom's house, or you wish you might have called her again, or something that would have prevented something like that.
yeah.
Because as sad and as terrible as it was, it's
And
like
sudden, man, too.
well, and that's another, and that's
Yeah,
the I think that's the hardest part with a lot of with things like this that happens is when it comes out of nowhere.
yeah,
Like we talked about this a lot, in the past, is you have this life and people have these lives, and they're in a good place, and life's doing good and your kids are good and you're happy at work, and then like for example with you and a lot of other people, when they get the phone call or a police officer calls them that there was a tragic car accident, or and it's all of a sudden
yeah,
your kid was, and look at it on the news, like all of a sudden you get a phone call that your kid was beat up and bullied at school and he was beaten to death.
yeah.
Like these kind of things that are just sudden,
Shock
that
is what it is.
that'll not a shock,
Yeah,
right? Nobody's built to handle that,
yeah. Uh,
you know.
Tell me about it. I did go into shock, definitely. I didn't believe it was real until I saw her body get carried away out on a stretcher, and her skin was not not the same color because she was dead for a while. She died between 10 and 12 o'clock at night on Father's Day. And then her mom found her about 8:30 in the morning on the floor. So, yeah, it was, yeah. But did I have any regret or blame myself? No. No. I mean, we're human beings. We make the decisions at the end of the day. I've been through so much death. I understand this. And no matter what you would have, could have done, I mean, it happened. You know, it happened. I don't know. I think what's meant to be is meant to be, right? And it happens at the end of the day. And it's just shitty that it happens all the time.
Yeah, and again, that's why it's so hard, is because we don't have control over a lot of this. When adults make their own decisions, like
Yeah,
they're adults,
yeah,
and it's not always the good ones, and the ones that they make sometimes leave family behind to deal with what they couldn't deal with,
yeah. It's true, man.
and leaves it to their kids. And like I say it all the time too, man. Like you can pass down generational trauma to your children by not dealing with the things that you've had to not deal with, basically,
Yeah,
and things in your life that was traumatic, abusive, whatever, loss of loved ones and children.
yeah,
But you have to deal with that.
yeah.
and people don't want to because it's a trigger and it sets them off and they can't talk about it, and they like a PTSD, and it's better for them to just bury themselves in their work and their whatever activities.
Mm-hmm.
But you're just masking it. You cannot ever run away from what has happened to you, whatever it may be. All you're doing is prolonging it and masking it. That's it.
Yeah.
It will always be there. The pain will always be there until you face it.
Yeah. Can't run around it. Can't go over it. You can run from
No,
it
you
for the
can't.
longest time, but eventually it's going to catch up to you. Doesn't matter how old you are, it will catch up to you. And it's just going to
Yeah,
damage
but
you mentally. Because then you got to live with that and live with these thoughts that periodically come through your head. When you're trying to push them away, which is then in turn just unhealthy, and it's going to make unhealthy decisions, and you're just going to start going downhill.
and unhealthy relationships, just like I did.
Yeah.
I tried to run from it for 20 years. And all that did was bring me heartbreak and attract the wrong people into my life because I was a mess. And I didn't even realize I was that bad of a mess
Mm-hmm.
until the very end when, I had a breakdown. And then I realized, I'm like, man, I got to change.
Yeah.
But most people are like that, right? I'm fine. They don't talk about it. It's easier for them not to talk about it. They're still in the denial stage or whatever you want to call it. And all that does is, you start to bleed on everybody else that didn't cut you, right?
I mean, a lot of
So,
people get stuck in the denial stage, and they'll be in there. You know, um, my kid's mom, she lost both her parents when she was in her teens. And she's still, and I mean, you can never really get over loss, but I mean, it still affects her like it was yesterday. You know, she doesn't believe it, and it's just
well,
other
and
people grieve, right? That's how people grieve. But you got to get past that stage to move forward.
and that's the thing with someone like her is she's buried it for whatever 20 years,
Yeah.
and then those are also the same people that use their traumas as the reason why they do this and the reason why they treat people like that. Well, I'm like this because this happened, but that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And as terrible as it was, you need to get over it
Yeah.
because what happened to you, whether it's your fault or not, is not an excuse to treat other people shitty. Is not an excuse to get away with being a victim, right? It's you just choose not to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then when things come up, you just use that as the excuse of why you're the way you are or why I acted like that. Well, I wouldn't be like this if this didn't happen to me. Well, fucking fix it. Then you won't have to be like that and you'd fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's poor me, poor me, poor me.
Well,
It's always poor me with most people and the victim mentality. Like, you know what? Like, I can sit here and say, like, I was physically and sexually abused by another man when I was 5 years old. I was physically abused growing up, and that list goes on. But I choose not to let all those things that's happened to me, you know, to give me the reason why I do that to my children or I treat people like this.
but you took control of the
Or,
situation, and you turned it around, you know?
well, and that's the thing is you have to.
Yeah.
Because regardless of that happened to me 30, whatever, 5 years ago, and like I said, the list goes on.
Yeah.
I I chose. It took a long time, mind you, and that's why we're sitting here tonight and every week. Is I chose not to allow what's happened to me affect my future anymore, and
Yeah.
I don't want what I chose not to deal with leave it for my kids to deal with because it's a real thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well, and let's face it though, there is no timeline on fixing yourself. Really isn't no timeline. and you're still working on yourself no matter what. Even if you're perfect, no one's perfect. You're always working on yourself. I mean, some people take longer to go through these things, and that's just how they process things. And if that's one of you guys, I mean, that's totally okay, you know. But it's a matter of, as long as you're putting in the work and pushing forward, and doing the job that you need to do to um, fix yourself. You know, that's what at the end of the day matters. I mean, if it takes you 20 years, 40 years, 50 years to fix that shit, but you're still working on it, well, I applaud you then. Good for you. Because a lot of people would just probably give up, So, I mean, keep that up.
Well, people just think it's too hard to put in that work because they don't want to face those demons. They don't want to turn around. They
Yep.
don't want to hit it head on. Like I said, you
Yeah.
mask it, you bury
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Fine. You're not fine. Because over time, like you said earlier, it's going to catch up to you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And a lot of
So
people
you
drink.
can't.
They drink, but they don't understand that these demons swim, you know?
Yeah, it's no matter how painful or traumatic things that has happened to you in your life, you can't let these moments affect your movements to
Hmm.
the future, into the future, right?
Yeah.
And people just become stagnant and they just live their life existing because they choose not to deal with all these things that's happened to them because they don't want to admit it, they don't want to talk about it. It's easier not to talk about.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, like what is actually harder, just talking about it and getting over that first hump to deal with it,
Yeah.
or living life in a constant state of depression and anxiety and stress because every day that you wake up and all day, whatever it may be, is that's all you're thinking about.
Hmm.
And all the triggers that come up along, and you just constantly deal with it and push it off because you don't want to be triggered. You want to be this, but why do you want to live your life like that?
Yeah. No kidding.
And then that's where the anger comes out too, and the way people deal with, and you know, their aggression and how they treat their spouses or their children. That stems from something greater than your wife pissed you off today.
Yeah.
There's way more to that, or your husband, whatever. There's something else, and it's buried deep down, that something that you've been battling. So why not try to fix that?
Well, let me ask you this. So, when you went through yours, right? After losing your nephew, how did you get through um your bargaining stage?
How did I get through it?
Yeah. Like what
I don't
did
think there. Well, I wouldn't say there's like a day that you would remember, but in that process,
Yeah.
in my situation was obviously, losing my 3-year-old nephew was a little bit different than, you waking up to losing your fiance.
Mhm.
With my 3-year-old nephew, he passed away with cancer and a brain tumor, right? So he was already in the hospital for months. So it was different in a sense that it was a possibility that he might not make it, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when he passed away, my bargaining at the time, like I think I mentioned earlier, is he's just a 3-year-old boy, nephew or not, he's just a baby.
Yeah.
And my bargaining and the way I am, because I love kids, man. Regardless, I got two, but even if I didn't have kids, man, I love kids. And when you see that, and my bargaining, not only was I hurting because it was my family, and I'm also hurting because it's a 3-year-old, and no parent or adult should ever bury their children, but
Definitely.
it happens. And so, after he passed, and I think in that is I I battled myself wishing that, like, I even, if I remember correctly, like I would tell myself, well, you know what? Maybe if you went over there the day before he got sick, then you might have noticed something and you might have been able to get him in the hospital a little bit sooner. And you tell these stories in your head because you're so hurt and you feel so sad and broken over watching your 3-year-old in the hospital dying.
Yeah.
I started, well, what if he can live if I give him my liver? And then you start, even some of it is just like beyond even reality
Mm-hmm.
because that's you're struggling, right? I would do anything. Like I wish, I could give him all my organs right now and put me under. I would change it.
Yeah.
So that was mine. Like, and then at that time, right before he passed, I believed in God, but I wasn't really religious. I grew up, like I said, with my dad, but and that's where in situations that we go through, a lot of people, whether religious or not, they always tend to look up and be like, God, if you're there, please help.
Yeah.
And we've all done it. And so I was not only negotiating with myself, but I was also, trying to negotiate with a higher power. Like if just let him live, and if he makes it, then I promise I'll be a better uncle, and I'll make
Yeah.
sure my sister's a better mom, and I'll go there every weekend and take him out and get him ice cream, and I'll do this because you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're just
Yeah.
you're hurting. But then after he passed and he didn't make it, now it's like, I wish I did this, and I wish I just would have went over there the day before, even though it wasn't planned, and then maybe I would have noticed something that my sister didn't, and then I would have taken him to the doctor, and I would have done. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely that those stories are a little bit different than like what happened with you all of a sudden, but yeah, it's
Well, let me say
I
this
think
then. Did you find that you were grieving before he already passed away? Maybe that's you're kind of already going through it while he was there. So, like how I am right now with my mom. I'm grieving her before she's even gone, I guess you could say. Did you find
yeah,
yourself doing that?
you're more prepared for it,
Yeah.
because they've already told you that this is a very high possibility that they're not going to make it,
Yeah.
right? So you're already grieving their loss before they're gone, right?
Yeah.
And but you're also wishing, you hope to, you hope and pray and whatever it is that you do that you don't lose them, obviously,
Yeah. Some kind of
and
miracle happens.
but that you're praying that 0.01% chance and that they'll make it,
Yeah.
and you hold on to that hope because you don't want to let that go, and you don't want to believe that they are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah, when you're able to, or when you're told, especially with someone like that, the family or whatever that's passing away, and you kind of get a heads up to having to deal with the worst case scenario, then you can be a little bit more prepared, and it's still terrible,
Yeah.
but at least you can kind of brace yourself for what's to come. So you're telling different, like when they're like, for example, like my nephew before he passed in the hospital, you're telling yourself different stories and bargaining and negotiating with yourself, and I wish if I do this, and if he makes it, I'll do this, and then after they're gone, I wish I could go back and do this, or I wish I could have just done this, and I wish, and then you kind of not really blame yourself,
Yeah.
but it's, I wish I could have done more. Then you get hard on yourself because you feel, or I felt, I couldn't do more,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to, but I couldn't. But it was, again, it was out of my control,
And that's the
and that's
worst
why
part.
we do that.
Yeah.
And that's the worst part because you lose a sense of control
Yeah.
of whatever it is that's going on or what's happened.
Yeah.
So that's why we feel that way. That's why we get depressed. That's why we feel grief, is because you lost a sense of control over that situation or that loss.
Yeah.
And you're trying everything you can and telling yourself stories hoping that you can feel a little bit better and regain some of that control. But in reality, you have zero control.
Yeah.
And that's where that depression starts to kick in, because you realize that you have zero control. And no matter what you tell yourself, no matter how many times you wish you could go back or change that or say this or pick them up or show up, you realize that it's you've lost control of that, and there's nothing you can do about it. And now it starts to really hit you, and you start to really hit that next stage, if you will.
Do you think that this just kind of popped in my head right now? Do you think that when you're depressed and you just lost like all control, do you think that losing that control mindset starts popping into everything else, like getting out of bed, going to work, doing all these other things? You've lost the mindset, the control of the mindset, I guess you could say, to get up and do even simple tasks like having a shower, making some food. You know, I think that it like carries over. It almost like it's like a spell effect. You know, losing control obviously comes in with depression, and then it starts doing that. You know, what do you think on that?
Well, and that's why I think that's how you start to sink into that depression
Yeah.
is, we take a traumatic event, um, a painful memory, or a painful something that really bad happened to you when you're a child, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
and we take that one thing, and like you said, because we all grieve differently, and some people just can't deal with it at all, and or some people bury it and continue on with their life, and they don't talk about it ever, and whatever they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we, as we take, let's put it this way, like, so I'll make a smaller example. Like, so when you say you go out your regular day and something bad happens at work, and it's minor, it might be at work, you get a fender bender, you're pissed off, right? Now you're in a bad mood, right? One thing in your day has now trickled into how you're communicating or working beside your coworkers, because now you're mad. It started in the morning, it trickles into your day. Now you're just being a miserable prick. Then you go home and you're banging dishes, and you're getting angry or whatever it may be. And now that has created your whole day of different events to be all shit over one thing. Right? So everyone says, "Well, I had such a terrible day." Well, no, you just had a terrible moment, and you allowed it to affect the rest of your day or the rest of your week because of one thing. Now, obviously, when we talk about the bigger things, like, what we go through as children and the abuse and the big traumatic events, but we take that, and like, people hold on to that for years and they don't deal with it. But we take that part of your life or that traumatic event, and that we allow that. And it's hard because when you get into that place, you do lose control, and it's very hard to think clearly, have clarity, any of that. So that's what starts to trickle into these things, where you don't even get up to have a shower. You don't do your
Yeah.
dishes. Now you're so down you can't get out of bed, and your kid's missing school because you can't even drive him to school.
Yeah.
And now you're always going to the gym, and now you haven't been to the gym in a month. Now you ate healthy, and now all you're doing is ordering skip the dishes because you can't even get yourself up because you're so down to go to the grocery store and buy food. And now you're gaining weight or you're overweight, whatever it may be. And that's where the snowball effect comes in. Right? So we take that one big thing or whatever it is usually just one or whatever people go through, but allow over time other things to start to fall off, and that's where people nosedive, and they add and build up, just like me, and stack these things because you didn't deal with this one thing. You allowed that one thing to now control you, and now everything else in your life is starting to fall off. Now you're missing work. Now you're being suspended. Now you just got fired. Now you don't have a job. Now you have no money coming in. all because of something that's happened that you choose not to face or deal with
Well,
and bury it instead.
let's say like this then. You're letting people live or things live rent free in your house, in your head. I mean, you know, and it's all about the mindset, like we talk about. And
Yeah.
it's
So
small things, small things will make people. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Next thing you know, like you said, snowball effect, one thing after another. It could just be the smallest thing, even paper cut. Who knows, man? Whatever it is.
well, that's the thing. It's always usually a paper cut, but people turn that into a huge gash, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Because it's 90% reaction to whatever it is that's happened to you.
Yeah,
And obviously, with sudden death that you've dealt with, that I've dealt with, that's not just a paper cut, but regardless, that's happened.
yeah,
Now, what do you do to move forward from that?
yeah.
Right?
A big
Do you choose to allow? Do you choose to allow everything else in your life to start to fall off? Yeah, it's extremely difficult when you get into that mind space and you're
Mhm.
crying, and you're depressed, and you're sad, and you're not thinking clearly. We've all been there. I completely understand it, man, because you're hurting, you're broken, you feel alone, you know.
Definitely.
But regardless, in that, because that's and you don't feel like it, but it's temporary.
Hmm.
And that when you're in that headspace, man, you think that's gonna last forever, and that's why people unalive themselves is because they don't think they'll ever come out of that,
Yeah.
and they feel that it's better to not be here than to wake up the next day to feel like that, because that is the worst, and nobody thinks that you'll ever come out of that. As much as you don't want to feel like that, you can't shake it, and now it's carried over because of something that's happened to you. But I promise it is temporary because we've both been in it and we're sitting here tonight.
Yeah.
And I almost unalived myself twice. So, but regardless of what's happened to you, and you're still here, you still have people that love you, you still have children that need you still have friends that care about you. And so, whatever it is that happens, you have to be able to face it. You have to be able to deal with it, regardless of how painful it is to talk about, because you cannot allow that to ruin and affect your movement going forward and the rest of your life, because you're taking one thing, as severe as it might be, and now you've just added no money because you've gotten fired. You have very to little no or low self-esteem because you've let yourself go.
Hmm.
You gained a bunch of weight. You're not as, you know what I mean? You look yourself in the mirror, you just feel terrible looking at yourself, and all these other things, right? You're not playing with your kids as much as you used to. And now they don't want to come see daddy. They don't want to go to daddy's house because he's always angry and he's always sad. And he just lays in his room all day watching TV because he can't get out of bed.
Distracting yourself, pretty much. You know.
Or in your phone, because I
Yeah.
did it. I
Yeah.
would sit there and scroll, but I was looking at nothing. And that was my way of dealing with my anxiety, was looking in my phone
Yeah.
because it was a distraction.
Chasing
You know,
dopamine.
I've said, because it was easier for me to just get that
Yeah.
quick distraction than the thoughts that were in my head, because I didn't want to feel or hear the thoughts in my head because they were dangerous fucking thoughts.
Hmm.
So whatever it is that we go through or whatever it is that you guys are going through, man, like you have to turn around and face it, man. You have to. Because I tell you, when I remember being like that, and then I started not going to work, and then all of a sudden the paychecks were half as what they were, or you know what, we don't really need you anymore, and now you have no job and you're looking for a job while feeling like that, or now your kids don't want to come see you because you're like that, man, you want to talk about nosediving real quick? All because of one thing that you chose not to deal with, and instead you decided to mask it and self-medicate, and all you're doing is running away from it and prolonging it. Because there's something that you could have done that might have taken you, depending on the severity, a couple months. Now you've dragged it out to 3 or 4 years, but now you've added addiction to that, alcoholism, whatever it may be, that you now have to deal with on top of that because you chose not to deal with that one thing.
Just stacking on stacking on stacking. And then
$1,000,000%.
it's going to be even harder now to go through those things and fix yourself because you got so much stuff on your plate, you know, and then people get overwhelmed, you know, and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do first. And then it's easier if I just lay back in bed and disappear, you know, and then you just get into that vicious cycle.
And then when they get into the drugs and the alcohol, like a lot of people do, is they use that is the reason why they keep getting high, or they keep drinking, or they keep gambling, or whatever their fucking addiction is. So they're using this now as an excuse as to why they do this, rather than looking in the mirror and taking accountability.
And then you attract, because you're not in good health, so you're attracting other people that are in the same situation or even worse, you know. And then you get really stuck in that because now you got this partner that is going through their shit and using drugs or whatever it may be to medicate, which then is going to fall on you because you are who you hang out with, you know. So then the both of you are just going to get stuck into this vicious cycle. And
you don't
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
That's 1,000,000% true. I believe it 100%, right?
Yeah. I do want to touch on though, you know, if you are feeling like this, you know, reach out, get a counselor, talk to someone. You know, it's really important, especially in a death. You know, there's grief counselors out there. You know, I saw a grief counselor. I'm still seeing a counselor, not a grief one, but I'm seeing a counselor. You know, it's healthy to talk about these things. You know, me and Joey both push it hard. I mean, everybody should be talking to someone. You know, we're all fucked up in the end of it, but you know, just different varies. We're all hurting. We're all trying to survive and go through life here. So I mean, like, reach out, talk to people, talk to your friends. You know, if they push you aside, if those aren't your real friends, you know, a real friend will, you know, sit down, listen, and be like, what's the problem? You know, it's good to, you know, reach out and do whatever you can to, you know, fix the issue at hand. I mean,
100%.
Coloring books, man, I'll say that again, like we talked about, depression coloring books, those are great. Like, find something that's going to put a smile on your face, you know, get a hobby, do something. I mean, after Jules's death, this is ended up what happening. You know, something good can come out of it. It's just about finding the lesson and, you know, growing. Because if you get stuck behind, it's gonna take a long time to try to catch up.
There's a positive in every negative, and even when you're in that,
and
you'll never see or think you can find a positive in whatever that is ever. Especially when you lose a loved one, especially in heartbreak, whatever it is. But there'll be something that comes up in your life down the road, and you might not see it today or tomorrow or next week. But you'll be like, well, if that didn't happen, then I wouldn't be doing this now. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have this. I wouldn't have had my son. I wouldn't have had my daughter, whatever it is. So there's always a positive in every negative. It's just you have to work towards finding that, and whatever traumatic and painful, you know, events that's taken place in your life or that you've had to go through or you've struggled with, is you got to find not only the positives in that as you go in your healing process, but you have to take the positive steps so you don't fall in to that snowball effect of taking down the rest of your life and everything that you've built up until that, of to what's happened,
Most definitely.
because you're just going to be 100 times worse, and you don't want to not have a job, you don't want to not have your kids want to come see you, you don't want your wife or girlfriend to leave you, or you don't want someone to not want to date you,
Yeah.
even if you're
Yeah.
single,
Yeah.
any of those things.
Yeah.
But I promise you that's temporary, man. It really is, and it's the hardest thing to ever do, I think, in your life, in terms of getting over these things that happen to us, especially sudden things. Extremely difficult.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I'm not going to tell you that it is easy, because it's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do.
Mm-hmm.
But I promise you, it'll be your biggest blessing if you put in the work and you find and take those positive steps.
Mm-hmm.
Because how you come out on the other end of that, I can't tell you how grateful I am, because for 20 years I never thought in my life I could ever not feel the way that I felt every single day. And the way I feel sitting here, hey, we got struggles, man. It's life. You still get pop-ups of anxieties and this and that, like,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's night and day, like absolutely night and day. So you just, whatever it is that you guys are dealing with, struggling with, we say it all the time, man, is that 1%, that 1 degree of something different in your day, in your routine, and where that'll redirect you and in your life 3 months, 6 months from now, is a place that you never thought you'd ever get to.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole new destination, and that's the destination that you want to shoot for, is one that you've never been, but you don't know until you put in that work. Right now, you're on a path now. Whatever it is that has just happened or has happened to you has now put you on a path to a whole new destination. Now, so which path do you choose to take? So
I may sound maybe a bit of an asshole, some people might think, but I mean, you got to think of it this too now. It's like, say you lost someone, and as sad as it is, I mean, this is life, and at the end of it, we're all gonna die someday. But I mean, if you're young enough, I mean, this is a new time for you to reinvent yourself. You know, do things that maybe you and that partner didn't want to do. Now you get to go and do those. And I know it may sound, oh, I can't believe you said that or whatever, but it's the truth. At the end of the day, it's the truth. That person is not here anymore. You are here. You still need to take care of number one, because no one's going to have your back except for yourself. So if you can't find the positives in all this, then there, I threw a couple positives at you. You may not see it right now at this point, but eventually, you will see it. And it's funny that we have a mutual friend, Joey, Cece. I was talking to her the other day, and she kind of gave me um, I don't know what you would call it, a little bit of insight, I guess you could say, on the true meaning of a twin flame. So I thought I'd maybe just share this. So when you meet someone, you believe that's your twin flame and everything. Well, twin flame can only have one person that can be. It's two souls that are so similar that the one person can only survive one of them because of something. I forget what she said, something along the lines like that. So in that destiny, one person has to go in order for that flame to keep on going, because you can't have two flames together in order to have one, or something she said. But it was kind of interesting. It made me kind of think. And then there's soulmates, which is actually meant for you. Have you heard of anything like that before? It's kind of wild, to be honest with you.
oh yeah, I've heard all that.
Yeah. Just interesting. I thought I'd throw that out there since we're talking about grief.
Well, now
So,
you mentioned soulmates and twin flames, is you will never attract them until you do the work and the healing in the things that's happened to you in your life.
yeah,
Because as long as you bury and carry all this trauma with you and pain, is you're not all you're going to attract is people and relationships that also are dealing with pain that never dealt with it.
yeah,
So in order for you to get to whether it's finding your soulmate or whatever that they say, and that real relationship, the one that is meant for you, it is impossible to find the one that is meant for you until you heal and fix
yeah,
your traumas, your past, any mistakes. And a big part of that is the accountability, whether it was your fault or not. That's number one. Because you can't change or fix anything about yourself if you don't believe it, or if you're in denial, or you don't take accountability. And if you're the person pointing fingers all the time while you're choosing not to look inside, you're just pointing your fingers outside.
yeah,
So how do you find the one? How do you find your person?
yeah.
If you're struggling and in pain every day, because all you're going to do is attract who you are, not what you want.
It's crazy you
A
say that.
million, a million percent. So I'm actually, the fact that you said that actually goes hand in hand with
Yeah.
what we're talking about,
Yeah,
because you will never find your soulmate, and you will never find your twin, whatever it is that you want to call it, the one, until you fix what's going on the inside.
yeah.
Just like they say, you can't love anyone until you love yourself. As cliche and as cheesy as that sounds, it is 1,000,000% true.
Man, it is because the time I met Jules, I was in one of the best moments of my life. I was killing it at work. I was eating healthy. I was working out. I was doing everything, and then she just walked into my life. I wasn't looking for a relationship or anything. We went to high school together, but we didn't talk for 20 years, and all of a sudden we just started talking, and she ended up living behind my house, which was crazy, man. I went on my back porch the day we were talking, and I could see her in her front yard. I lived there for 5 years. She lived there for 4 years. Never even saw each other. It's crazy, And I was in the best time of my life, and she just walked in. A lot of people, they search for relationships, and I mean, usually when you're searching for it, it's not the real person. Your true love will just walk into your life when you're not even expecting it. And it's true. It happened to me.
Well, and some people will come into your life to teach you lessons,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Some people will come into your life to teach you how to love yourself.
It's true.
Because I'll tell you, like my last real relationship, man, that one hurt. Like anyone that you care about and it's a breakup, of course it's gonna hurt. Fucking shittiest feeling ever. But in my own healing after that one, taught me how to love myself, taught me to take accountability instead of point fingers. Well, she did this, and I'm in counseling and telling her this, and they're like, no, 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 no. You did that.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
You did this. You did that. I'm like, shit. Maybe I'm the problem, or maybe I did a lot of it. And that's where you got to take the accountability and start to make those changes. Right? Because some people will come into your life, you think they're the one, but no, maybe they came into your life to teach you a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you came into their life to show them what real love is.
Yeah.
And they came into your life to teach you how to love yourself.
Or maybe you're the
Because
teacher.
that's what I learned. And maybe you're the teacher.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if everyone's like, well, they're the one, and then you break up, you're heartbroken because you think they're the one. You think, your heart doesn't break. It's your expectations that are broken.
Yeah.
Not your heart.
Yeah.
Because you had such expectations for the future. This is what you guys were going to do. I was going to buy this house and go on this trip, and that's overnight, done, gone. So you're hurting because your expectations are broken, not your heart. But if they're the one you're supposed to be with, why'd you break up?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the best version of you will never be good enough for the wrong person. But even at your lowest version will still be good enough for the right person.
It's true.
Right?
They'll pick you up. You know, that's supposed
But
to be your rock.
But you will never find the one, the real one, until you work on yourself, till you fix your core problems, till you hit these childhood traumas head on and face them. You'll never.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen because you're damaged. You're hurting. You live with anxiety. You live in stress. You know, you're triggered all the time because you didn't deal with these pains and these. So, what are you going to attract? People with fucking traumas they didn't fix.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're just gonna be stuck in that cycle that we talked about.
And I was stuck in it because I had numerous failed relationships, just like most people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why does this keep happening to me? Well, what is it that you did? What is it that you haven't fixed? Why do you attract the same idiots? Why do you keep attracting the people that are emotionally unstable? Why do you keep attracting the people that abuse you? Because you that's why. Because you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got a bunch of shit that you never dealt with. And now you just keep attracting the same person because it's always his fault. It's always her fault in every relationship. So now you go to the next relationship thinking, oh, I feel I'm okay because he did this and she did that and it was their fault. And now you're in the next relationship. Well, guess what? It's the same fucking guy or girl you just dated.
Yeah. Exactly.
They just look a little different. Same person.
Yeah.
Same bullshit.
Yeah.
And then you go again. Well, how come the last 3 guys cheated on me? Well, why are you attracting these men? Because you're fucked up and you got shit you didn't deal with, and that's why you keep attracting these people.
It's a vicious cycle, man. Because then when that happens, then you get the victim mentality, like you're saying, you know, and then so the person cheats on you, and then you're bringing that hurt into the next relationship, and because that person cheated on you, now the trust. I mean, yeah, it's fucking gone. No one, you know what I mean. But that keeps on spilling and spilling, and then you start not to trust anybody. But at the end of the day, you know, you're in this shitty situation in your head and what's going on, so you're attracting these shitty people. So at the end of the day, you're doing it to yourself. Not all the time, don't get me wrong, but I mean, a good portion of the time is because you're attracting these people that are hurting, and they're hurting, so they're looking at, you know, going around cheating on you, doing all this, you know. So then that's gonna just keep on folding over into the next relation, into the next. So at the end of the day, you're hurting yourself and everybody around you.
Well, and that's it, right? And when you attract these people, like if these girls or guys or whatever, they look at some of these relationships they had, and it's always the same: the guy that cheats, or the girl that cheats, or the guy that's abusive, and they wonder why. And they're like, "Well, I would never do that to them." Yeah, and it's heartbroken because you probably wouldn't cheat on them, and you love them, and you would never hurt them.
Yeah.
But how, if you look back at most of those relationships in the beginning, obviously everyone's fucking their best behavior at the first month or two or whatever it is, right? Because
Yeah.
you just met them and blah blah blah, and then you start to see things.
Yeah.
Well, how many red flags? If you could look back at some of the relationships where people are listening to look back at your relationships, to the ones who did cheat or were abusive and all this, how many red flags in the beginning of that relationship before it got to that point did you ignore?
Yeah.
Right? So really, it is your fault because you allowed that. You ignored the red flags. But guess what? If you fixed you and healed your past and your core issues, when someone like that came along into your life and you seen these red flags, you would have walked away. You would have been done because you loved yourself. You have high self worth and self esteem that you wouldn't even tolerated that the red flags to allow it to get to that point.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make sense?
100%.
So if you don't fix this shit, you're just gonna keep attracting that shit.
Yeah.
And then once you fix you and once you feel better and get over everything that or the best that you can and work on yourself and you start feeling good about yourself and your self-esteem goes up and you start going to the gym and you start doing these classes that you wanted to take and you're starting to love life. You know, anytime that someone comes around and starts showing you these red flags, boom, you're not even going to tolerate that for a second.
Yeah. Put a stop
Nope,
to it.
done. And you put a stop to it.
Yeah.
Right? And the only reason that people tolerate this is because they don't want to be alone and they want to try to hold on to this person because they're still dealing with their own shit or they've never even dealt with their shit.
Yeah.
And then they start justifying the other person's actions by allowing these red flags. And you're like, oh, I don't know, but he was super nice, last week. And then it carries in. And now all of a sudden he's abusive, she's cheating, whatever it is. And they're just pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Spouses, basically. And then you're like, well, I would never do that to them. Like, yeah, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's actually your fault because you allowed that to get to that point. You ignored all this in the beginning. So you actually did it to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So until you fix yourself, you're never going to find that soulmate. You're not going to find the one.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Because the one, is even when you're at your lowest, you'll still be good enough for that one. Because all these other relationships that you've been through, they're not the one. They're not the one you're supposed to be with. Otherwise, you would be. Period.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. So until you work on yourself, build your self-esteem, build your self-worth, you will not find the one.
And reach out
It's
and get
impossible.
help. Reach out. It's okay.
But everyone lives their own lives, man, and it's up to you and how you live it. But I tell you, and you know what is, you have to talk about it. You have to hit it head on. You have to deal with it, and you have to get over that painful hump, if you will, of allowing it to trigger you, so you can get over those triggers and not let it trigger you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You will never forget, but you can also prevent it from triggering you when things come up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of counseling, is to find the tools on how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Going forward, how to live your life the best way that you possibly can with the hand that you dealt and with the abuse that's happened or whatever it is that's happened to you. Because you have people that care about you, your kids, your family, your friends, all these people. And you still got to get up every day. You still got to go to work. You still your bills aren't going to go away because of how you feel. So you have to do whatever it is that you can to make the best possible life that you can, given the circumstances and the cards that you were dealt with, whether it was your fault or not. And if it was your fault, take accountability, look at yourself in the mirror, and make the changes so you don't do that again. Learn from it, grow from it.
Become better.
And if it wasn't your fault, like being abused as a child wasn't my fault, man, but it's still my problem. I've had to deal with that and live with that and think about it my whole life. Okay, so do I just let that affect the rest of my life? No. Instead, I got to go and deal with it. I got to talk to someone about it. I got to figure this out. So I'm not triggered. I'm not snowballing into the rest of my life and playing victim and poor me. And I'm like this because of that 25 years ago, like most people.
Let's face it, though, man. You don't have problems. You have solutions.
And most, that's the thing, is most people don't even have problems. They think they got problems.
Yeah.
They don't got problems, man. They just got work to do.
Yeah.
It's first world problems, most of it. People are whining, especially in the Western world, whining and complaining about first world problems.
Fucking broken nail.
Like, whatever. It's
Yeah.
just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have problems. You have work to do.
Yeah.
Stop complaining. Stop playing a victim. Stop pointing your fingers. Because nobody cares. You need to work harder.
Figure your shit out.
Nobody cares. Work harder.
Yeah.
If you're gonna complain all the time about your life, but you do nothing about it, just shut up. I don't want to. I won't talk to you. You know, you want help, we'll help you. If you know, everyone's allowed to vent, everyone's allowed to have bad days, but if you just complain about your life over and over and poor me and I'm always broke and I hate my job and you do nothing about it and I don't want to wear a bikini at the beach because I think I'm fat, but you don't go to the gym, like those people are one of the most toxic people. Like you just stay away from them because I just can't. Because nobody's coming to help you, no one's coming to save you, nobody cares. I'm not saying that to be like I don't care. I'm just saying in the world, airing your dirty laundry on fucking social media, 99.9% of your followers do not give a shit. I'll tell you right now. So you can play poor me all you want just to make excuses for how sad your life is. Well, it's your life, but just stop complaining.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Unless you want to make changes, you want to get that help, fucking let's do it. I'll fucking help you. We'll help you. But if you're gonna play that card, man, just don't even bother.
Hit the email address, brother, so they know where to find us.
But anyways, I think that's a wrap, my friend.
Yeah, buddy.
But for all you guys that just tuned in tonight and you're new to the show, we are Raw Minds, the first podcast on men's mental health. If you guys are struggling, if you guys are hurting, if you guys just need to pick up a phone and talk to somebody, that's what we're here for. Hit us up, rawmindspodcast@gmail.com. Or on TikTok, raw.minds.podcast. Myself, Eric, will answer messages, phone calls, emails. As soon as we get them, we're there. So just reach out. Don't be afraid. You know, and if you guys are really even got a story or a real traumatic event or something that's happened in your life that you feel you want to come out and share with the world, that you feel that you want to try to help somebody, hit us up too. We'll chat with you. We'll get you on the show. Yeah, just that's why we're here, man.
On top,
Raw minds.
on top of that, buddy, hit the gear, man. Hit the gear, bro.
Yeah, and everyone that's listening, I also have a new clothing line out, ironmenace.com. It's gym casual, if you will. Fresh new gear, Iron Menace Fitness on TikTok, ironmenace.com on the website.
Don't forget the boat party, bro.
Instagram, Facebook, Iron Menace Fitness. And this summer we are throwing a yacht party. Yeah, buddy. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. It's been another great night, and I'm glad to sit here and do this every week. And we're going to continue to do this every week. So, on that note, if you can't find good people, be good people.
And yeah, like Joey said, he's thrown a second annual yacht party, which is gonna be pretty badass. So if you're in the Vancouver area, reach out to us. We'll show you how to get tickets and come hang out with us and many more. He's got a fashion show going on. What else you got going on there, buddy? I just want to hit this up too. I think it's very important.
Yeah, and there's another designer on the boat, Bonacci. He's going to be doing a runway, and we're just trying to get it out there and everyone have a good time. Prize giveaways, cash giveaways, 2 levels, 2 DJs, and it's all white dress code.
Very nice.
So,
very nice.
Yeah, buddy. But until next time, you know, we'll see you next week, man. As always. So thank you guys again for tuning in. And don't be afraid to reach out, man. You guys aren't alone.
Yeah, so thank you. This concludes the third installment. Get us up for next weekend for depression. Anyways, thank you and be good or be good at it. Bye.